How many applications on average do you receive per annum for wind farm development?
What we've seen is an increase in the number of wind turbine schemes over the last 2 or 3 years. So on average we're receiving about 30 schemes per annum, and that's increasing for single turbines. But for wind farms, which you say probably more than 10 turbines, we're receiving probably about 5 to 6 applications a year.
Right. And has this number increased over recent years?
The numbers have increased for single turbines because a lot of farmers are putting single turbines onto their farm holdings. The numbers of there's been a steady, in fact they're probably dropping off the number of the main wind farms, but that's probably down to the supply chain of materials to actually construct the turbines. But it's been steady, and it's not going to decrease. It's going to increase if anything. Those are the indications. How
many applications are successful?
For the actual single turbines, for the farm-based turbines, I would say about 80% of applications are successful. For the large wind farms, 10 plus, I would say it's about 70% are rejected in the East Riding. This is just for the East Riding, so that's a fairly significant amount of number of schemes that are rejected.
Yeah. And on what basis or reason do most wind farm applications get rejected?
They're rejected. The officers normally recommend approval for the schemes because of the characteristics of them, but they're normally rejected by the elected members, the members of the planning committee, primarily in terms of noise, visual impacts, impacts on residential amenity, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And do you find an overall positive or negative attitude towards wind farms from the general public?
I think generally, if you actually took a straw poll, most people would support renewable energy, and they probably would support wind farms. However, the communities that are actually hosting the wind farms, either the villagers who are living in the areas, I would say were generally negative to wind farms.
Is that because of noise complaints, or
I think
they feel it will be noisy?
Yeah, it's a concern about noise. It's about visual impact. It's about devaluing property, and it's about living really a complete a transformation in their sort of usual urban environments. Really, what they're concerned about.
What level of feedback do you receive? Is it high for wind farm applications, or wind turbines? Do you not hear much?
We receive a tremendous amount of objection and comment. A tremendous amount. So
is that to you personally, or
that comes into the council? So the planning officer who's dealing with the application will receive. The complaints, the objections come to the planning officer. So they can, on a big wind farm scheme, they could receive up to 1,000 objections on some of the significant ones. Generally, it's into the hundreds.
Yeah, and does this, to the extent of the public feedback, does that affect the final decision on successful applications?
No, it shouldn't do, because really what you're looking at with a planning application, you're looking at the facts of the application, the merits of the application. For example, does it fit into that particular environment? Are there any landscaping issues, noise issues? You've got to technically look at each of those points, but nevertheless, it just carries a significant, reasonable amount of weight, the number of objections that we get. But those objections have got to be valid objections.
Yeah. And where do the members of public most commonly voice their opinions?
They're normally right, because everything's electronic now. You can make your comments online.
Yeah.
So most comments are now made online. But members of the community can speak at the council meeting. There's public meetings where they can address the councillors, planning officer and the company. So there's lots of different media and ways of putting their views forward.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.